Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, is sponsored by the UPS Store Canada. More than 380 convenient neighborhood locations throughout Canada. The UPSstore.ca.
Hi there. Welcome to the podcast. It's another edition of the Standing By podcast with Terry DeMonte, that's me, and seated across from me is Ted Bird. Hello, Ted.
How do you do?
I'm doing good. I was listening to the podcast last week and I thought, why am I so rushy all the time when I do the podcast?
There's no need to rush.
There's no need to rush. So I thought, try and be a little more, chill this week and get a hold of yourself.
I also find, and Matthew, our producer, can attest to this because he does stand-up comedy. I'm learning as I do more and more stand-up comedy that you don't have to rush on stage either.
True.
It's okay to pause.
Yes.
And take a drink of water and think about where you're going next because the audience isn't sitting out there going, when's the next joke?
I remember that being true of radio too, because remember there were some mornings where I would just stop talking just for fun because we were taught as young broadcasters that was a sin. It was called dead air, and you didn't leave dead air on the radio so that, there was nobody was talking.
Yeah, there used to be an old expression, man, you could have driven a truck through that.
Yeah.
But it's okay to let it breathe a little.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. So that's why suddenly I'm talking like I'm high. So there's a fine balance in there somewhere.
You're like the guy, who was the guy, the overnight on the National Lampoon Radio an hour?
Oh, yeah, Dick Valentine.
No, there was another guy.
Oh.
National Lampoon Radio Hour, the guy who had Insomniac Time. 2 to 6. The overnight show.
Did you ever do an overnight show? I did
Our guest
one.
today is Mr. Ron Fields. Thanks, Mel. You're fantastic. I love you. You're terrific. Mel Brewer. That was it.
Mel Brewer.
Mel Brewer, Insomniac Time. And it was either Bill Murray or his brother, Brian Doyle Murray. I'm not sure which. I didn't host an overnight show, but I did overnight news.
I had my first job actually in private radio was I moved from the CBC. Believe it or not, I started at the CBC and I moved to rock radio and I got the midnight to 6 show. And once I got my nerves settled and my hands around that, it was great.
Well, you could do whatever you wanted.
Well, yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning, you're like, okay, what do you want to do now?
Yeah, I used to do overnight news on Jerry Forbes' show.
Is that right?
You think we had fun?
Yeah, much? Yeah. Behind the scenes must have been fun.
Yeah.
The podcast is brought to you by our title sponsor, the UPS Store Canada. As it says online, if you Google UPS Store Canada, the first thing that comes up is the UPS Store Canada, go figure, and it says small business experts, because that's what they do. And when
They're just little tiny people they're business experts.
Only if you have tiny little businesses.
No, they're tiny.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
They're small business experts.
You have to duck your head when you go in. When you go to their website, there's small business solutions, a section on mailboxes, a place for packing and shipping, printing, and there's a small business blog that could be very helpful if you're an entrepreneur. Top 5 productivity hacks for small business owners, ways to refresh your small business brand in 2025. Excuse me, top 5 trends in 2025 that small businesses should know. And if you're a small business owner, you'll find it really helpful. And if you got to send a plate to your mom in the Maritimes, you will also find them extremely helpful.
I can attest to that.
Yep. And are there locations close to you? Are you kidding me? They've got locations on Boulevard Lacadie. They've got one on Mount Royal. They've got 3 in Laval. There's one in Brossard. There's one in Westmount. There's one on Isle of Parrots. There's a bunch of them in Laval. There's one in Saint Sever. There's one in Dollard. There's one in Langley. There's a bunch of them in Cal. They're
Don't
everywhere.
list them all. There's more than 400 of them. I can't listen to those guys anymore. All they do is fucking list UPS store locations.
Go to the upsstore.ca and find a location near you. And like I said, whether you got something to ship, privately, or you're a small business owner, they will be a huge help.
So yesterday, Tuesday, the 25th of March, was the 30th anniversary of the Tragically Hip being on Saturday Night Live. And I thought to myself, that 30 years went by fast.
You posted it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And it's done. Well, not your post, but the picture of Gord Downey and that story
Singing
stunned me.
Grace too. Yeah. And in here today, it feels like 1995 because Terry brought the newspaper. Yeah. What are you doing with that, Grandpa?
I'm going to go on and on about this because this week, our cat Finnegan had a couple of health issues. He's okay, and we had to bring Finn into NDG because that's our favorite vet and has his file there. Anyway, we went into NDG with Finnegan, and when we got the green light, all was well. Jess said, can we make a quick stop at Au Trottoir? It's probably the biggest record store in the city. It's a favorite. My wife is a vinyl collector. She loves it. So we were coming from Queen Mary Road up and over the mountain. So we went up and over the mountain. And
I thought you couldn't go over the mountain anymore.
Not yet. She hasn't started it yet.
She being the mayor.
Yeah. And I brought up on the podcast last week that I thought what Valerie Plante was doing was underhanded because she's leaving office in November and she's already got contracts signed to begin the closing to traffic. I noticed last week I talked about they were closing the mountain, but they're closing the mountain to traffic. That's what she wants to do.
You can't drive over the mountain.
Right. She's bound and determined not to get all of the cars off of the mountain. You know the story. It doesn't matter what side of the argument you're on, if you're going hurrah or you're going whoa. I just think it's a big mistake. And as my wife and I were driving over Comedian Hood, we both remarked, what's wrong with this? It was the middle of the week. There wasn't a lot of traffic. There were more bikes than cars using the street. There was lots of people in the lookout. There were people in the parking lot. Everybody seemed to be enjoying the mountain in their own way. Some people were walking over to the other lookout. People were cycling. Some people were jogging. And some people were driving over the mountain. And
it wasn't broke.
No, nobody died.
Yeah.
There was no fiery wrecks. As Josh Freed put in his column this past weekend, closing the road is a solution in search of a problem.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is.
That's a great way of describing it.
Excuse me. And Josh did a column 2 weeks ago, and then he did another column in last Saturday's Gazette saying Montrealers expressed their love for Mount Royal access in letters. He got all kinds of notes from people. For example, at our age, we do not bicycle anymore, but we drive to the mountain. We find it beautiful. As the mom of a toddler living on Park Avenue, the mountain is our weekly escape from the concrete of Mile End to get fresh air and space for the kids. Some people had other ideas. For example, make Comedian Hood one-way westbound so people can get up to the mountain quickly with a slower roundabout return, or close the road during rush hour weekdays so it's not a shortcut. Somebody else mentioned speed cameras. You're so worried about traffic and speed? What about speed cameras? Anyway, Josh was pointing out he got so much mail on it that he's hoping and thinking it's going to be a major election issue. And I don't have a dog in the fight because I don't live in the city anymore, but I love my birthplace. I love Montreal. I always have. And I just think this is a mistake for so many reasons. And what it is a vanity project for a politician. It's part of her ideology. She's not going to be the mayor anymore, and she wants to be the one that people point at and say, you took cars off the mountain. You helped save the planet. That's what I think is behind it.
But it's just a vocal minority of people who's going to say that. Her legacy with most people is going to be, she's the one who closed down the mountain.
And I think so too, and I think it's a detriment to the city. And the other thing is, somebody pointed out in one of the letters to Josh Freed, the mountain is supposed to be for everybody, right? All Montrealers are supposed to share the mountain. And the way the Projet Montréal has governed the city, in my opinion, over the last 10 years, is they've governed it for their corner of Montreal. They made the plateau, very livable for people that live in the plateau, very enviable for people who can walk to Mount Royal in the summer and enjoy that. But if you want to come from somewhere else and get to the plateau, good luck. They've kind of cornered off parts of the city just for themselves. I don't think that's the way you govern a big urban center, but I'm not going to run for mayor, and I wouldn't want the job. But the reason I'm bringing it up is, to your point, it is a vocal minority, and that's the problem. That vocal minority goes to the polls.
Yeah, well, the rest of us should speak up and show up at the polls.
Yes, and I hope you do. It's a long way away. The election isn't to November, and that's my point. What she's done is she's signed contracts now with construction companies to start work in 2026.
By which time she'll be out of office.
She'll be long gone.
Yeah.
And anybody who takes office, if you run contrary to this position and you get into office, now it's going to be costly to cancel those contracts. So I think it's underhanded and hypocritical what she's doing. And it made me sad. Like I said, I was driving over the mountain and everything was working just fine. Cyclists were cycling and walkers were walking and people were looking at the lookout and people were parking and enjoying the park. Nobody was speeding. There's a police station right there. It seemed like Montreal on a regular day. And on top of that, once you start digging it up, it's going to be closed for a long time.
So did you get to the record store okay?
Yeah, after turn left, turn left, turn left, turn left, turn left. You can't turn right, you can't turn left, you can't turn right, turn left. Cul-de-sac, no barrier, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we finally got there.
Okay.
And even found a parking spot.
Wow.
How about that?
Look at you.
God love the plateau.
Should have bought a lottery ticket.
Anyway, that's my hobby horse is please don't close Committee Hood over the mountain, and no one's going to listen to me. But if you listen to the podcast and you live in Montreal and you never vote in the local election, you might want to. Even if you don't go. Like, when was the last time you were at the mountain?
Oh, I don't even remember.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm not a tam guy. Maybe I'll do that this summer. I'll put flowers in my hair and head out to the tam.
Yeah.
What's the guy with the CPAP machine doing here?
What's the gag?
Oh, the gag. That was from a tweet.
From a tweet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The kids at this rave are looking at me like they've never seen a CPAP machine before.
You were out and about this week, though, weren't you? You want to tell us about a couple of your sojourns?
Well, I did a comedy show at Laval Senior Academy this past Saturday night. Didn't realize it was a high school until I got there.
You thought
it was a retirement
old
residence.
folks' home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking forward to being the young hipster. Thought I might even get lucky. How you doing, greatest generation? So that was fun. And what else did I do? We resurrected Sunday morning pickleball at Cooper Academy.
Nice.
Where my friend Zach's dad, George Martin, who was a linebacker for the Montreal Concords.
No kidding.
Remember the short-lived Concords?
I do.
After the demise of the Alouettes and before the resurrection of the Alouettes, there was the Montreal Concords of the CFL. I think they had 2 seasons. And George was special teams and linebacker for them. So he's the athletic director now at Cooper Academy, and he opens the gym for us on Sunday morning.
Isn't that
and we
nice?
go play pickleball under the watchful eye of Bob the Bulldog.
I was going to say, the Bulldog is usually in the picture that
Isn't
you
he
put
the
on
greatest?
Facebook. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, he's something else. And when Bob eats the ball, the game's over. So the trick is to keep the ball away from Bob, because as soon as he gets it, that's it. It's over.
Cooper Academy is an NDG, isn't it?
No, Cooper Academy is in Kirkland. On
Oh,
Hymus.
is it?
On Hymus, yeah.
Oh, what am I thinking of? There's one in, anyway. Don't
Cooper, Kuper.
Yeah.
A little bit on Hymus, a little bit east of St. Charles.
Yeah.
So that was the extent of my social life this past week.
That's a good antidote.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Good antidote.
I was thinking about this the other day. I did that on the air one morning with you.
Yeah.
And I said
antidote
I
instead
said,
of
that's
anecdote.
a hell of an antidote. And you said, well, antidote?
Well, I've been looking for a cure.
Idiot.
Yeah.
I was out and about last week. I was out with a good friend of ours, Anthony Wilson Smith.
He's such a nice man, isn't he?
Boy, is he ever!
Yeah.
He's such an amazing guy. He's so bright, so well traveled. You know, he was a bureau chief in Moscow for a long time. He was the editor of Maclean's magazine, and he's now. We've had him on the podcast. You can go back and look for that episode. He's now in charge of Historica Canada. That's the organization that reminds people of different elements of our history, things that happened that this generation may not be aware of. And they produce, I think they used to be called Canadian Minutes years ago.
Heritage Moments?
Heritage
Is that it?
Moments.
Or Heritage
Yeah.
Minutes?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and they've always kept it apolitical.
Yes,
that's
they
what
have.
I really respect
Yeah,
about
they
Historica
have.
Canada.
Yeah.
They don't latch on to an agenda and
Yeah.
try to promote it.
And Anthony was in because he was hosting the event that launched the stamp of the late Mr. Mulroney. That launch was here in Montreal with the Mulroney family attending last week. And we were lucky enough that Anthony made time for us, and we were able to have dinner with him at one of our favorite spots, the Monkland Tavern. And I noticed this week, I don't know what your take on this is, Ted, there's increasing pressure to allow restaurants, and Quebec has just said you can go ahead and do it, and that's charge people who don't show up for their reservation. So that if you make a reservation at a restaurant, they can ask for your credit card number, and if you no-show and don't cancel, they can put a $10 charge through on your credit card.
I think that's more than fair.
I think it's really fair, and I'm surprised
it's costing them business.
Absolutely.
There should be like a time frame.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to cancel, you got to cancel. You got to give us, I don't know, 4 hours notice, let's say. That's an arbitrary number I'm pulling out of my ass. Maybe 12 hours is a better number. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, well, I'm lucky enough to know a number of restaurant owners, and for example, Barb and Josh at the Monkland Tavern, it's a favorite spot of ours. I think it's one of the city's best restaurants, and it's not a huge restaurant, and they set up the tables in the afternoon according to their reservation book.
Yeah. And other businesses have cancellation
Yes.
fees. Why shouldn't restaurants?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And, if you make a reservation, and apparently I didn't know this, a lot of restaurateurs have told me that some people will make reservations at 3 restaurants and then decide which one they want to go to.
That's shitty.
At the last minute, and not cancel the reservations. I mean, I've been in a position where I couldn't make it, but I always phone the restaurant and say, I'm very sorry, but we're going to be unable to come tonight. Apparently it was against the law for a long time, but it's been changed. So if you are a fan of certain restaurants in and around the city of Montreal, and who isn't, be ready, because I don't know that all of them will do it, but now they're able to do it by law, and I think it's fair.
I think it's more than fair.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
Something I wanted to mention. Not really get it off my chest, but I wanted to mention it.
Yeah. I think it's worthwhile mentioning. We were talking about stand-up comedy a few
Yes.
minutes ago. I'm just looking at Sugar Sammy's website.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of tickets available. He's been adding tickets and adding shows in Montreal, including tonight's show, Wednesday, March 26th. Only single tickets available for that show.
Okay.
And for tomorrow night. But other shows, last week of March, first week of April, second week of April. Some of the shows are sold out, but most of them still have tickets available for Montreal, Quebec, and also Gatineau. And then he goes to Dubai.
Yeah.
He's like really a global sensation
He
at
is a
this
global
point, eh?
sensation. Yeah, he is.
How about that for a kid from Côte d'Ivoire?
Yeah, not bad at all.
Yeah.
Not bad for the Bill 101 kid
Yeah.
who now can sell out a room in San Francisco, Vancouver, and Dubai, and is a television star in France.
Yeah.
I think that's very cool.
And we hear almost every week from somebody in another part of the country saying, we heard you talking about Sugar Sammy on the podcast. We went to the show, be it Fredericton or Halifax or Winnipeg or wherever, Vancouver.
Yeah.
We didn't know who he was, but boy, were you guys right. He is just terrific. So if you know Sugar Sammy, you know what you're in for if you go to a show. If you don't know him, check it out, sugarsammy.com. And like I say, for the next 2 to 3 weeks, lots of shows in Montreal and lots of tickets still available, but they go fast. So go to the website now and get yours at sugarsammy.com.
Yeah, proud sponsor of the podcast. We do say it every week. Do not wait, because a lot of people put it off, and then when they go to buy tickets, the tickets are gone. Sugarsammy.com, as Ted said. How was the Barry Lorenzetti Foundation game?
Long.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It was
at the Bell Center.
It was at the Bell Center.
Was Chris
yeah.
Nyland
Chris was one of the coaches.
Yeah.
And there were a few ex-NHL players.
Yes.
It was a celebrity hockey game to raise money for mental health initiatives that the Lorenzetti Foundation supports. And they raised $140,000, and we had lunch afterwards at Da Vinci, another great Montreal restaurant.
Yeah.
But to sit there and watch Mose Persico play hockey for an hour and a half, I love you, Mose. Great guy, but
ça marche pas?
No. It would be like watching me play hockey for an hour and a half. He's a better hockey player than me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was for a good cause.
Yeah.
But it was like a pickup hockey game. It was basically they had 3 25-minute periods, not stop time, straight time.
Oh, okay.
But it was still a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
25-minute periods.
Yeah, weird, eh?
That's odd.
Yeah.
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 Well, I guess maybe because it was at the Bell Center, people wanted to make it as long as possible.
I guess so, yeah. The good news was they didn't have the music cranked and the sound system cranked the way they do during a game. You could have a reasonable conversation with the person sitting next to you. I had a long chat with Vittorio Rossi, who we had on the show with Chris Nyland a couple of episodes ago. And very pleasant conversation, and the Bell Center entertainment system was not intrusive as it is during a regular Canadiens game.
Yeah, that's an issue for me.
Me too.
In terms of going to the games.
Yeah.
I mean, I know.
I like going to the game and watching the game, but they make the atmosphere insufferable.
Assault on the senses.
Assault on your senses.
Well,
exactly.
it's for a younger crowd than us, I guess.
I guess so.
Unless you're talking about people in the boxes, in which case it's just not a younger crowd up.
Yeah, but you couldn't even. We were in a box as guests of David Garfinkel a few months ago. You couldn't hear yourself think up there.
Yeah. Barry Lorenzetti does an awful lot for a lot of charities in town, and has that foundation. I'm glad to hear it was.
He's
successful.
a guy who did really well and gives back to the community.
Big time.
And it's not for show or to make himself look good. It's from the heart, and that's nice to see.
And I guess Ziggy was there.
Oh yeah,
yeah. There we go. Ziggy also is a philanthropic kind of guy.
He is. He sure is.
Yeah, I was telling my mom and dad and I were talking about Da Vinci's, because it was a longtime favorite of mine for many years, and my mom and dad had been there a bunch of times. And when they heard me talking about it, I was just visiting with them, and they said, "Is that the place that had the really good Italian food? Everybody was really nice to us." I said, "Yeah, I hadn't been in a long time." And you had an excellent lunch, I'm guessing.
Oh, it was outstanding. Yeah. I took my ex-in-laws there when I was married to my first wife, Terry, who's Italian from St. Michel, and her parents were old school from the old country Italian, and I wanted to show them that I was appreciative of everything they had done for me, and I took them to Da Vinci, and their reaction was like, this is really nice, but why would you?
Yeah.
Why would you spend all this money? We can do this.
We do this,
and it'll be even better.
Yeah. Well, a lot of Italian families have grandmothers who, they'll all tell the same story. Hey, Nanny, you want to go for... No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Why you want to go?
Yeah, well, that was it. They only went out of deference to me because they knew it was important to me. But I could tell that they were like, it was not in keeping with their values.
Right.
They enjoyed the meal and all the rest of it, but it just didn't make sense to them that you would go out and spend that kind of money when you could have exactly the same thing at their house.
It's an iconic restaurant. In terms of downtown Montreal, it's nice that, like that street, Bishop... That's another thing. I think they ruined Bishop because it's just all condos now. It used to be a beautiful street with a lot of different, bars and playgrounds for adults, but now it's mostly condos. And my two favorite restaurants in the world at the time were there, Les Mâts des Oliviers and Da Vinci's. And Les Mâts is long gone and is now condos, but Da Vinci's hangs on. So good for them.
That's awful that Les Mâts des Oliviers is condos.
Yeah, it makes me cry when I think about it. Speaking of crying, we didn't get any letters this week.
Are you sure we didn't get any? All right, somebody
Well,
somebody write to Terry so he doesn't start blubbering.
We got a couple.
Yeah.
First of all, we got one we forgot about, which was Ryan, who interviewed us on Saturday.
Oh, that's right.
And
yeah.
we were like, "What? Huh?"
Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan. Ryan is from Fredericton. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we were on his podcast, and we did hear from George Heim. So I guess 2 letters.
2 letters poured in.
Yeah, there you go. If you want to get in touch with us, go to the website, terryandtedpodcast.com. So you'll find it's a newly put together website. My wife just put that together. The episodes are there from this season. We're working on getting all the episodes there. But for now, the episodes from this season are there and available at a click. And there are clips from all of the episodes since Christmas, I think. And every week, Ted works tirelessly in his home studio. It's quite a studio you have at home.
Yeah,
Ted.
well, basically, it's me sitting in a chair with my phone. Editing promos on my phone.
Yeah. Illusion.
No, forget it.
You want to make a record at Ted's studio, you can't.
No.
Anyway, Ted puts all our promos together every week, and the little clips that we lift from the episodes, you can find them there. So you can email us there. You can look at our stupid picture there. You can find clips there. You can find old episodes there. And it's easy to remember. It's terryandtedpodcast.com.
And the email is standingbythepodcast@gmail.com. Standingbythepodcast.
Yeah, if you want to go direct.
gmail.com.
Yeah, but you can also email us through the website too.
Yeah.
Anyway,
should we bring our guest in?
You have to explain. We're going to, on our interview segment today, we are going to have a quick chat with somebody who's going to be working with Ted in a couple of days.
Charles Daglean is a Montreal-based stand-up comic who works across the country and does a monthly show at the House of Jazz in Laval, which is a very funky venue. We'll get Charles to tell you the story about that and to talk about how funny I am.
Good.
After this,
and it's a good part or a good. We'll be right back. And we're back. Thank you, Matthew. I noticed listening back to the podcast last week, we have nice interlude music when we're welcoming a guest into the studio. Nice job, Matthew. Thank you very much.
The Matthew Borgelli Orchestra.
That's right. And speaking of guests, we have one.
Charles Daglean is in studio with us. How are you, Charles?
I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Pretty good. Charles is a Montreal-based comic who, among other things, hosts a monthly show at a venue called the House of Jazz in Laval, which I only discovered when Charles said to me at the Comedy Nest one night, "Hey, why don't you come up and play the House of Jazz
Right.
one of these days?" And I said, sure. So I went up and I watched a show back in, I guess it was in January.
It's something like
Charles?
that. January, February,
Yeah.
March. Yeah.
And what a cool venue that is.
Thank you very
It's a
much.
cabaret, basically a cabaret style venue.
Yes,
right?
it is. It's like a jazz club with 2,000 chandeliers in there.
Wow.
And there's a piano, a drum set on the stage. It's got a second floor, so I thought it was the perfect venue to have a comedy show with a live band. Have it be a little bit more like a Saturday Night Live, Tonight Show type of vibe with some.
It's interesting because I thought you were going to say I went out and bought a clarinet.
No, I did not.
Yeah, I'm still
Come
waiting
play
for
the
him
jazz
to play
club.
some sax.
Okay.
On the show.
Yeah, interesting. So it is a club for jazz.
It is a club for jazz.
Okay.
During the week, they have all kinds of music bands that come.
Yeah.
But 3 years ago, it's been a dream of mine to start a comedy show in Laval because I feel like people in Laval are deprived of comedy. Also, a lot of the people in Laval are Anglophone, so it would be the perfect place to have a comedy show. And when I called the owner, I told him, hey, this would be the perfect place to have a comedy show. He was very down, very open to it, and it's been 3 years now we've been running the show there, and I couldn't see it anywhere else now.
So
Let me jump in on that. Oh.
You go.
you go.
No, you go.
So
Who's Hugo?
you curate the show. You
Absolutely.
pick the comics and make sure
And Charles MCs.
and
I
MCs.
So
okay.
this is the room where I test out my material. I get to have some fun because a lot of the people that have come there have heard me 1,000 times. But every month I pride myself in bringing in some great local and out of town comedians that can do a solid 10 to 15 minutes, give them the showcase, and be able to perform in front of the people in Laval. And
Do you audition people?
No,
You don't?
there's no auditioning. If I
Okay.
see somebody somewhere, I think they're
Yeah.
doing great. They've got the
thing.
experience
The thing.
to be able to perform in front of a big
Yeah.
room, command a room like that.
Because it's funny, if you've seen enough comedy over the years, and we have, you and I have talked about this, you can tell pretty quick. It's either they have the thing or they don't have the
Yeah.
thing. And I don't know what the thing is, but it's
I would
there.
disagree.
Would you?
I've seen people that didn't have the thing, but then got the thing. You know what I mean?
That
is
it came with experience, you mean?
It comes with experience. Hey, if they say it takes 10,000 hours to be a great pilot to fly a plane,
Yeah.
I think the first time you're flying that plane, there's better chances you're going to crash it than you're going to be.
That's comforting.
Some people. But I mean, if you keep doing it, at some point you might get the hang of it. You'll
I
understand the
disagree
feel
with
of
you.
it.
I disagree with you. I know a lot of guys that play guitar and play guitar and play guitar and play guitar and practice and play guitar.
It's a little bit of
and
both.
they're still the guy at the campfire with the guitar.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, there are some comics who are like that as well, but
'Cause
there
there's
are
like-
some that you see, you go, wow, where was that guy and
Yeah.
where is he now?
That's the
He's
thing.
blossomed.
Yeah,
or she's blossomed.
If I look back, when you think of all the comics that we saw over the years, because we were at so many comedy shows in the early days, and we saw, there was that whole crop of Montreal comics. Like I remember when Joey Elias,
Wow.
he was pretty good. He was pretty good. He was pretty good. And then one night we saw him, and it was like, wow. He got it. He got it.
You have to find
Yeah.
your voice as well.
Yeah.
That's a thing too. I think at the beginning, a lot of comedians search themselves and try to replicate the styles of other people because they're like, this is who inspires
Yeah.
me and whatnot.
Yeah.
But once you find what's true to you, then you will become funny because people are not listening necessarily what you're saying. It's how you're saying it. It's you that they're listening to. So it's definitely finding your voice. And then some
Yeah.
comics find their voice. And then I tell them, you got it now.
Yeah.
Come show that at the House of Jazz. We do that
Delivery,
for sure.
timing, all of those things that. Well, you even said yourself, Ted. You've become a really great stand-up.
Well, my own
comedian.
experience
I
has been
agree.
I
Yeah.
did it on and off for
Yeah.
years and years and
Yeah.
years. We would go and host the Montreal show at the Comedy Festival, and I would host a fundraiser here and there. So I might do stand-up comedy like 3 times a year. And for the last couple of years, I've been doing it maybe 3 times a month. And it makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
and
of
with
course.
the experience, for me, has come a comfort level on stage. And that's made all the difference in the world for me.
100%.
Now that I'm comfortable on stage, it's just it's just made all the difference. And I was very flattered, Charles, that you asked me to close the show next
Yeah,
Tuesday,
absolutely.
April 1st. That's pretty high praise. It's not a headliner thing because of the structure of the show, but I guess it's what you would call showcase.
Not a showcase, but you'd be closing it out. I like to have somebody. I saw you at the Nest. You had an amazing set. You knew how to command the room, and I'd like to have somebody that's kind of experienced to kind of close it out and give it that big bang at the end.
Who influenced you, Charles?
My favorite comedian, I would have to say, is Robin Williams.
Okay.
Not always seen for his comedy or known for his comedy, but the energy on the guy and the fact that he could jump from one topic to another, the imitations he does, the energy he brings on stage, the audience matches that energy right away when he comes out there,
And did you become a fan like at a very young age?
Very young age.
Yeah,
Very,
okay.
very. So
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I used to watch a lot of stand-up and a lot of comedy movies.
Yeah.
So Chaplin, Jim Carrey, Eddie Murphy, Robin Williams. That was my type of comedy. which all comes from the energy that you bring on stage.
The first time I ever saw Robin Williams, you probably weren't even born yet. 1977.
No, I was not.
Yeah,
I was not.
he was on Peter Zosky's show.
Yeah.
And Peter Zosky introduced him as a Russian comedian, and he came out and he did his whole shtick with
Yeah.
a Russian accent, and I couldn't catch my breath.
Yeah.
I was laughing so hard, and I was, who is this guy? And then subsequent to that, Mork and Mindy
Yeah.
was created.
Yes.
Peter Zowski, by the way, was a national talk show host who had a late night show in the 1970s on CBC television and was a longtime broadcaster and bit of a national star in that day.
Yeah, he was an icon back
he
then.
was, yeah.
I've read on your bio, Charles, and I didn't know this about you. You perform in 4 different languages. You do
Yes,
stand up
yes.
in 4 languages.
So I'll do stand-up in English, obviously, in French as well, because we're in Quebec, and it's just better for the pay. Sometimes if you're doing it in French, they've got stuff that pays a little bit better, and also because you can do jokes that you wouldn't be able to do in English.
Right.
You'd be able to do them
Yeah.
just in French. They have great audiences as well, just like the English audiences. I speak Armenian, so I
wow.
tapped into doing stand-up in Armenian so I can talk about cultural things that are specific to my culture, which has allowed me to open for a lot of great Armenian comedians that travel the world. And at one point, I was like, I know enough Spanish to be able to do 10
Wow.
minutes on stage.
That's
Put me on a
amazing.
That's
Spanish
impressive.
mic, and it's always a shock for the audience because they go, the next guy's from Venezuela, next guy is from Uruguay, next guy's an Armenian from Laval. Let's give it up for Carlos right now. And it definitely,
Fantastic.
everybody in the
Yeah.
room is like,
Yeah.
So
That's
you
great.
get to play with people's expectations there. My Spanish is not
That's amazing.
great.
Yeah.
But it's good enough that people will understand me. But it's kind of like listening to your favorite song, but every third note is wrong.
Okay, gotcha.
It's kind of
it's
like
probably like Mike Patterson when he does French comedy.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
is. Absolutely.
And,
you
and
can.
that actually enhances it to
Yes.
in some ways.
Some people have come up to me and they told me, when you're saying that, you're actually not saying that. You're saying something else.
Yeah.
And that adds a third or fourth layer to that joke. Like I found out recently that I keep saying comprendo, which means I understand.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say is, do you understand? So what I'm technically saying is, do you think I understand?
I had that experience in French at the Point Claire Aquatic Center where I swim. There's a guy named Daniel who's a unilingual francophone, and so I speak French to him, and my French is not great, but it's good enough that I can scrape by. And
Really?
he knew that I had some health issues, nothing grave, but he asked me one day in French, how are you doing? And I told him that I had had some tests recently, and I wanted to say, but I feel fine. So I said to him, mais je sens bien. And he nodded and frowned, and then a couple of seconds passed, and he said, je me sens bien. And I said, oh, okay, it's one of those vowels, I guess.
Oh, my
and
dad's-
he explained to me that je sens bien means I smell
I
good.
smell good. Oh, my dad is number one in that.
That's a great opener for a conversation. Eh?
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. I smell good.
I'm glad I felt good, because if I had said je sens terrible, I would have been, I smell terrible, Dan.
My dad's number one in that. I have to say, I'm going to give him a shout out on this one because
Yes.
if I'm going to make fun of him, I'm going to. He does these things where he'll speak in French, but he'll be one word wrong, but it will change the entire meaning of this. So it was his 60th birthday recently, and he was having a dinner with all of his French friends, and he did this speech where he said, je mange, mais je pèse plus. And everybody's going, what do you mean, je pèse plus? And what he was trying to say is, I don't weigh myself anymore. Je me pèse plus.
Yeah.
But everybody was looking at my mom and go, poor guy, help him out. He's just eating. You don't need to cut him off for that.
Let's give the details of your appearance and where people can see you.
Charles, where can
Where's
folks
the club? Tell us all the details.
Find
So
tickets.
Ted is going to be closing out our show at the House of Jazz on April 1st. So it's not a April Fool's joke.
Okay.
There is
No,
a
it's for
comedy
real.
show happening at the House of Jazz. We have a fantastic lineup as well. We've got Ted, we've got Umer Tayyib, Surag Meletian, Isabelle Gaumont, and as well French comedian Maxime Martin is going to come do it in English as well.
Nice.
So you can buy your tickets on misterfantastic.ca, M-I-S-T-E-R fantastic.ca. And if not, it's every month at the House of Jazz. We have a different lineup. The only thing you're gonna have to endure is my face. That's the thing. My bald ass is gonna be there every time.
And there's a dinner package as well if you want to go early, eh?
There's a date night package available as well. If you want to impress your girlfriend, your wife, something, you can get 2 tickets, 2 drinks, and an appetizer to share. Better than the Cheapy Tuesday where you're gonna have to sit down and shut up for the entire movie. This way, you sit down, you shut up, we make her laugh, and then you go home and get laid.
And it's a really cool venue, as Charles was saying, that multiple chandeliers. So if I decide to start drinking again,
Yeah.
I have my choice of which one to swing
swing
from.
from.
swing from, yeah, absolutely.
Charles, thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
guys
coming
for
in.
having me. I appreciate
Appreciate
it.
it.
Thank you guys.
Okay, we'll be right back. And we're back. Our thanks to Charles Daglean. Did I get that right?
Daglean.
Ted?
Charles Daglean.
Came
Yeah.
in to regale us with the story of the Jazz of Club.
The House of Jazz
Thank
in
you.
Laval.
Yeah.
Comedy show next Tuesday night, April 1st. And yours truly will be one of the performers.
The closer. Bring on the closer. Just before we had Charles in, I was trying to say something and I fell apart.
Right.
And I wanted to mention that somebody asked me about touching my face. Mm-hmm. If you watch on YouTube, I touch my face a lot. I couldn't answer why. It could be a nervous tick. Maybe there's something wrong with me. I'm not sure. I'm doing it right now. Sometimes I do this. Sometimes I do this. And maybe it's just a tick that I've developed in my later life. I don't know.
Furthermore, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you download the podcast. You don't give a shit about that.
Yeah,
So I'll
touch your
start-
face all you want.
Yeah,
Doesn't bother
I'll-
me any. Just don't
okay.
touch mine.
Now that would be funny.
Yeah.
Hey, let's tell people about our good friends at Acute. Jess and I were talking about it the other day. I said to Jess, I hope that people remember, Jess and I were talking about Acute, and I don't know how we got on it. I think the lights flickered at our house. And we started to talk about Acute and, you know, how good they are and what great people they are and the family-run business aspect. And Jess said, it's just that, you know, you don't always need an electrician. It's not top of mind. And I said, what I hope we're doing for them is that you remember the name Acute when the time comes.
I think what they call it is brand awareness.
There you go.
Have I got that right?
Yeah, I think
Is that the marketing lingo?
You should become a consultant now. Yeah.
We're going to work on your brand awareness. I think you should go on the Terry and Ted podcast.
And it's the kind of thing that, you know, if you own a home, it creeps up suddenly. If you live in an apartment and, you know, the super takes care of everything for you, that's one thing. But if you live in a home and you didn't have your electric upgraded when you bought the house and you've been putting it off for a while, calling the folks at Acute is the way to go.
Also, you might be a contractor.
Yeah.
You might be a landlord, a property owner. You might have commercial real estate. Acutech does that as well.
Maybe you just bought them all.
Yeah.
Yeah, they'll take care of that. And that's the thing about them. They can look after just about everything that will present itself electrical wise, whether you need to update the home. And as I like to say often, if you can't use the toaster without unplugging the lamp, that kind of thing, it's time to have it done. Call them. They'll come and look at it and they'll let you know. And if you want to talk to them about generators, they can do that for you too. West Island Company, but it's been there since 1995. Family-run business. We love the family-run businesses, as you know. Acutech, ACUTECH.ca.
Sex Pistols are going back on tour. You want to go?
No. I have to admit, I was never a fan.
I was not a fan
I
of
never
the whole punk genre.
I never understood
passed
any of
me
it.
by. The
Yeah.
closest I ever came to, well, actually, I'm not going to mention it right now because they're part of the racehorse or rock band game that we're going to play in a couple of minutes.
Okay.
But I just want to mention, I don't know, I saw this on social media the other day. The Sex Pistols, they were pretty much the punk band back in the day, eh? Like late 70s until Sid Vicious died.
They turned the whole music world upside down when they arrived on the scene.
Yeah. And they're going to go on a U.S. tour for the first time since 2003. No Sid Vicious, obviously, because he's dead. No Johnny Rotten, who was their original lead singer. I think he left the band a long time ago. They're going to have a singer named Frank Carter, who's got tattoos all over the place and needles sticking in his skin and the usual. And he's about 30 years younger than the rest of them. They're all pushing 70,
right?
And he's about 40. Anyway, when I was reading up on it the other day, and I went to their Wikipedia page, and I don't know what the connection was, but I came across the name of a drummer from another band called The Damned, and it reminded me of how funny punk names were back in the day. Yeah. The drummer for The Damned was named Rat Scabies.
That's nice. Mr. Scabies? Mr. Scabies? Do we have a Scabies?
First name Rat? That's me. Yeah, Rat Scabies from The Damned. There was also Jello Biafra. Remember him? The lead singer for the Dead Kennedys. Yeah. Mike Hunchback from the Screeching Weasels. So I Googled funny punk band names. And I got some funny ones, and I got some... there was a list of bad taste punk band names.
Mike Hunchback from the Screaming Weasels.
The Screeching Weasels.
Really?
Like they had senses of humor.
They
these
sure
guys.
did.
Get a load of these band names. I apologize in advance because some of them are in kind of poor taste, but that's the genre.
Well, the Dead Kennedys was
that's
very
in pretty poor taste. Yeah. Syndrome of a Down.
Jesus.
Clive Pig and the Hopeful Chinaman.
Clive Pig?
Clive Pig and the Hopeful Chinaman.
Jesus Christ.
John Cougar Concentration Camp.
Isn't that awful? That's terrible. These are actual names?
Actual band names, yeah. Ronnie James Deodorant. Shoot the Mime. That's a sentiment that I agree with, as well as a band name. Here's a nice Jewish band name for you, Gefilte Joe and the Fish.
I like that.
Mini Pearl Necklace.
How'd you like to be an agent with this roster? I got a great band for you this week, Brent. They're called John Cougar Concentration Camp. Hello. Hello.
And the last one, and my personal favorite, Admiral Poopy Pants. Admiral Poopy Pants and his dancing teeth. How do they come up with these?
That'd be a great movie title.
You want to go see Admiral Poopy Pants and his dancing teeth?
Now playing.
I don't think so. So that reminded me of a game we used to play on the radio, these many years ago, called Racehorse or Rock Band, where we'd give a name, and you would have to guess whether it was the name of a racehorse or the name of a rock band. So I want to play a quick round here with Terry.
Okay.
Except I've lost them all. Give me a second.
I was thinking about this the other day. This is where printed things come in handy.
Yeah, no kidding.
You know what? You have paper in front of you, and it's right there, and you don't spend a lot of time, moving a mouse around trying to find out what you did with it.
All right, here we go. I found them. We'll do 3 quick ones here, okay? And you have to guess.
Okay.
Racehorse or rock band?
Yes, sir.
Request for parole.
Rock band.
Racehorse.
Okay.
Yeah. 11 career wins, $440,000 in career earnings.
Not bad.
For request for parole. Bodacious Tatas.
That's a band.
Racehorse.
No way.
Go figure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I would have bet on a band.
Yeah. Had an even better career than request for parole. Oh, no, actually, I think I got that wrong. It was Bodacious Tatas with 440,000 career earnings. Yeah, request for parole actually finished 5th in the Kentucky Derby one year.
No kidding.
Yeah.
I want to hear the call of the race, Bodacious and Bodacious Tatas.
And one more, and I know you know this one.
Yeah.
Teenage Head.
Yeah, that's a rock band for sure from Tirana.
That's from Hamilton, actually. Yeah. I remember them back in the early 80s. They actually had a couple of pretty good songs that got some radio play because they weren't full on.
Yeah,
punk.
They kind of walked the wire. There were a lot of, not a lot of bands, but some bands like that. There was a band in Winnipeg called The Fuse that kind of walked that sort of high wire between, like I remember when it first started, when the punk movement first started, people would say to me, "Oh yeah, you got to come. It's a lot of fun. They spit on you and you get spread, you know." And I'm like, "What? But I want to go see your rock show. I'm not interested." But it was a counterculture movement, is what it was.
Yeah. And Teenage Head had they had a couple of songs that got some airplay. I saw them. They were described in something I was reading earlier today as punk and garage rock.
Yeah, that's a pretty good description, actually.
Yeah. And their lead singer was Frankie Venom.
Yeah.
Of the Burlington Venoms. Do you remember that on Frasier, the TV show Frasier, when his maid Daphne said, "Frasier, do you know who's moved in upstairs? The rock star, Freddie Chainsaw." And Frasier says, "Really? Of the Newport Chainsaws?"
Those were the early days of counterculture and punk rock, and like I said, I understood it now. Like looking back on it, I understood it. I never bought into it. I just
didn't like it.
Yeah, I never understood it. Yeah, and we were working in. I was working for what was known back then as album-oriented rock radio. So we didn't, we veered a little bit in that direction, but. We didn't play Teenage Head. We played The Clash. The Clash was a band that kind of walked that sort of high wire act between counterculture and mainstream.
My brother, 5 years younger than me, was a huge and still is a huge punk rock fan. He was even in a couple of bands called Kittens in Purgatory and The Guilt Parade.
Okay. Those aren't bad.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I like Kittens in Purgatory.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah.
I was going to mention this on the podcast this week. I may as well mention it now. You know what I've noticed in the last, I'd say, last year or so, I've been using my Shazam a lot. Do you know what Shazam is?
No.
It's an app where you
hold it up to a song and it tells you what the song is.
So I'll be watching something on television or on a streaming series, and I think to myself, wow, I love that track, and I'll rewind it. And a lot of these shows are making great use of songs that I guess I missed. I'm not sure. Like in SAS Rogue.
SAS Rogue Heroes. They use a lot of AC/DC on that show.
And one band I discovered with them is a band called Airborne.
Oh, yeah?
Airborne are they've got an AC/DC. I looked them up. I had to Shazam it during one of the episodes. And, you hold your phone up and it tells you what the band is. And then I looked into them. They're from Australia. They formed in 2003. If you love AC/DC and you like that kind of rock, you will love Airborne.
So they're a bit of an AC/DC knockoff?
I guess so. You could call them,
that's
second
fine.
cousin.
I mean, I've been on
a
German metal kick lately. Like I somehow got turned on to Rammstein, and I really like it. And I've discovered a bunch of other German metal bands that you can tell they're Rammstein knockoffs pretty much, but I like it.
Yeah. And and it's interesting when you're watching a show and the song stands out but doesn't take away from the show. I love that because you're able to discover things you weren't familiar with, like Airborne. And another artist I found out, it was a song that I loved. I thought, geez, I love that song. I wonder who that is. Rewound it, held up my phone, and it turns out it's a guy named Teddy Swims.
I've heard of him.
He's a rapper.
Yeah.
And has been around for a couple of years. A song called The Door, I think. Anyway, I thought I would mention that because if you watch a lot of streaming and you love to, I love to discover new music, but I'm not really sure how to do that much anymore.
Yeah, me too. And I get comfortable with my older music, the
Yeah.
stuff I know and I'm familiar with.
Yeah.
I'm open to new music, but I don't know how to go about finding it.
Yeah, and I try and keep an eye open, and some shows like SAS Rogues Heroes, that soundtrack that they use during that series is incredible.
Yeah, and it fits the show.
Yeah,
too.
it really does. It's a World War II show,
Yeah.
and they use current music
Yeah.
or fairly current music or recurrent music.
It's such a great show.
Yeah, and by the way, if I'm sure you probably know about Shazam, but if you don't, put it on your phone. It's kind of fun when you hear something that you're unfamiliar with, and you hold your phone up, and it introduces you to music.
If I could make a recommendation, do you have
Please
Spotify?
Matthew. Yes.
You could go on, what's it called? Discover Weekly.
Yes.
So based on all the music you listen to, it gives you songs you haven't
Oh,
heard
no
before.
kidding.
And every
Oh,
week
nice.
they give you like 50 new songs.
Oh,
And
really?
then the more you use it, the more the algorithm figures out what you like. And then
Okay.
Is that only on Spotify, Matthew?
I'm sure.
Because
Apple
I'm on
Music
Apple
ha-
Music.
I'm sure it
you?
has its own version too, but I know Spotify's algorithm's pretty good for discovering new music. And then if you go like pop mix, it'll give you like 80% songs you
Yeah.
like, 20% new songs.
Yeah,
So there's
like
a
I
lot
know-
of playlists they make for you on a daily basis.
I notice sometimes, if you think I'm in the mood to listen to this song, and you punch in that song on Spotify, and they'll immediately build a playlist with songs similar to that song if you keep listening to Spotify.
Yeah, and it's based on that song and then all
Yeah.
the other songs you listen to. Like they build a profile on each person.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
that's
What's
cool.
the name of the feature on Spotify, Matthew?
If you look up Discover Weekly, is the
Discover
playlist.
Weekly.
There you go. Excellent tip, Matthew. Thank you very much.
Thank you, robots, for taking care of my musical tastes. Thank you, AI.
Yeah. Have you noticed AI on when you do the Google thing now? And the AI, if you ask it a question, AI, yeah.
It's everywhere now.
Yeah, I know.
I've heard the tech bros say that it won't be long before we're having sex with robots.
Really, eh?
Yeah, and I thought to myself, obviously these guys have never been married. All right, I'm using that next Tuesday on stage.
Good. I was going to say, line that one up.
Yeah.
Let's say hi to our good friends at the Riches. What's wrong with me?
Super
today?
Carrot Man?
Yeah, Super Carrot Man.
Yeah, Pierre Soucy from Robert Riche Jewelers in
Yes,
Dorval.
Robert Riche Jewelers. And I promise I'm going to come get my watches. I promise. I brought a couple of watches there to be fixed a few weeks ago, and they've been just sitting there. So sorry about that.
And when I say Super Carrot Man, it's not because he has red hair, because he doesn't. It's because he is a gemologist, and he's bound for the diamond capital of the world.
Yes.
Antwerp, Belgium. He'll be going in April. Pierre goes twice a year, in the spring and in the fall, to hand-picked the finest diamonds in the world from the diamond factories, and he goes by special invitation. Not just anybody can go into the diamond factories and pick diamonds. You have to be invited. And Pierre is respected enough in the business that he gets the invitation. So if you have a big occasion coming up, if you're planning on popping the question or celebrating a special anniversary and you're thinking about a diamond, talk to Pierre before he goes to Belgium. He can let you know what's available. You can give him your budget. He can tell you exactly what he can get within your budget. Or you can go see him when he comes back. He brings back lots of extra stones as well, and you can have a look at what he has. And if you're really lucky, like we were last fall, he'll bring you back some chocolates.
Yes.
Belgian chocolates.
Yeah. Well, don't go there shopping for Belgian chocolates.
No.
But if you're looking for, a gift, as Ted was saying, and I always say, every budget. You don't have to go in there with, a big whack of dough or, take out a loan. Sometimes you can find such a beautiful gift, and Carol and Linda will help you pick something beautiful
Yeah,
out.
they know their stuff
They
as well.
really do. And as we say every week when we talk about them, it's a fun visit. You go in there, and they're just lovely people to talk to and deal with.
Robert Riche Jewelers, 309 Dorval Avenue in Dorval, across from the Dorval Mall.
And coming up, we're going to get to the tweet sheet. We have a tweet sheet, do we not?
We do,
Ted?
yep.
Yes, okay. And I do have a couple of recommendations that we talk about every week. I try and mention either things that we've been watching and enjoying This week I got a pretty cool other podcast for you.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I'll tell you about it in a second or two. Just before we get to the tweet sheet, let's remind you about the Mersons.
You can go to the Mersons right now and get rabies.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Great.
I got an email from them this morning, 10% rabies. I think that's French for discount.
I think so, yeah.
And I believe
Yeah.
it might be pronounced rabais.
Yeah.
Yeah, but every time I see that, I go, oh, rabies.
Oh, wow.
Great. Just what I need. I need some rabies. Yeah, the Mersons are offering 10% off right now on your tire change.
Yeah.
And this is the time of the year that you're going to be changing over.
Not yet.
From your, not today, sir.
No.
From your winter to your summer tires. So enjoy 10% off your spring tire change. And you can also get up to $100 in rebates on Yokohama tires. Yokohama, that's what I use for my winter tires.
Yeah.
And they're dandies.
Yeah, they're great
Yeah.
tires. I've had a
And,
number of those tires. They're terrific.
Yeah. So obviously, if you're looking for new summer tires, you can get a $100 rebate, up to a $100 rebate on Yokohama tires from the Mersons. You can also go on their social media, Instagram and Facebook, and they've got all kinds of videos with their mechanics. Specifically, Christos does a lot of videos in English, and Charlie their service manager, does videos in French, just with little tips about automotive maintenance, things that you should be on the lookout for, or if you don't know, they'll be on the lookout for you on your behalf, and make sure that you're always going back out on the road in good, working, and safe automotive condition.
Yes. The Mersons. Been at that corner, well, not really quite at the corner, but been in that location for 1,000 years.
St. Jacques, just east of Cavendish, online at mersonauto.com, 514-487-5545. Make your appointment now for your tire change.
Get it
'cause they're
done
getting
before
into
the rush
busy-
starts.
Yeah, well, I
Yeah.
think the rush might already have
Is
started.
that right, eh?
Wouldn't be
Yeah,
surprised.
my parents asked me the other day because it was snowing when I left Arnprior. They said, "Do you still have your winter tires on?" I said, "Absolutely."
Yeah, well, I still have mine on
yeah.
as well, although last week when it was like 12 degrees, I was going, oh, maybe I should go get... No.
Yeah. That's
No,
not the way
yeah.
spring works in
No,
Quebec.
no.
No. Do you want to get to the tweet sheet?
Sure, why don't we?
Okay.
Some of the funny that I found on Twitter this past week. I usually bring in 3 of them. That's the first one right there.
Okay.
From @Citizen Koala, science fact. It is impossible for a man to strap down any kind of load in a trailer without saying, that's not going anywhere, as he tightens the rope. Is that the truth or
that's
what?
That's very true.
Yeah. I love this one from @DD Smith. Not to brag, but I've been told I'm a fine one to talk. That's very clever.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. And from @Rod Lacroix. My son sneezed with a mouthful of cereal, and now we have to move. You ever have that happen to you? I had that happen with cheese, a combination of cheese, crackers, and grapes. I'm still finding bits of it months later.
Was that at home by yourself?
No, it was at work when I was still at the radio station.
Okay.
Yeah, mouthful of cheese, crackers, and grapes. Ha!
I'm not easily grossed out with that kind of thing, unless I was in the direct line of fire of the crackers.
Yeah.
This guy to get sprayed with crackers. Yeah. A very, very good friend of mine's son just had a baby, and showed me he was having a baby's a newborn, and he took the newborn into the bath with him. Uh-oh. And you know where this is going. Yeah. And he sent me a nice video of that. Daddy's little girl.
Oh, boy. Speaking of sneezing, I saw a picture of Manitoba's premier recently, Wob Canoe, and I thought, that's the noise I make when I sneeze.
Let me tell you about this podcast that I found that I think you're going to like. I am probably my favorite movie of all time. It's hard for me to pick one. Jess and I love old movies. Just the other night, we were watching Guess Who's Coming to Dinner for the 70th time, a film from 1967.
Is that Sidney Poitier?
Yeah, correct.
Who else?
Katharine Hepburn, Spencer Tracy. Just an unbelievable cast. And some people think that movie's out of date. I don't. It's about, released in 1967 when they were still using the word Negro. And Katharine Hepburn's daughter in the movie turns up with Sidney Poitier, and they're going to be married. And then there's the whole, the movie is built around the conversation that ensues at a white household. And I think the movie still holds up.
No CGI, no special
Just
effects.
a story.
Just great dialogue and great acting.
Phenomenal acting with one of the most powerful speeches towards the end of the movie by Spencer Tracy, who made that film and passed away 3 months later.
Wow.
Yeah, it was his last movie. Anyway, when anybody asks me what my favorite movie of all time is, it's The Godfather, without a doubt. I went with a buddy to see The Godfather. We jumped on the train from Pierrefonds. We went to see it at the Capitol Theater on downtown St. Catherine Street, and went next door to Dunn's after it was over. And I, as a 14-year-old boy, was mesmerized by The Godfather. I'm sure I've seen it 200 times. I've watched it again.
Really, eh?
Oh, yeah. I love this movie. And there's so many stories around the making of The Godfather. There's a great documentary that's on Paramount Plus. There's books that have been written by the producer, Robert Evans. I mean, so much has been written and published and talked about the making of The Godfather by Francis Ford Coppola. And now there's a podcast based on a book I read last year called Leave the Gun, Take the Cannoli. And that's a famous line from The Godfather, if you're familiar with the movie. And now they've got a podcast. And it's a podcast with some really terrific clips from Mario Puzo, Robert
Who wrote
Evans.
the book.
Yeah, Mario Puzo wrote the book. Francis Ford Coppola himself, who directed the movie. Albert Ruddy, who was the producer, who was a Montrealer at one point, by the way. And it's really fascinating. If you love The Godfather, if you're not if you're a casual fan, you may not enjoy it. But I highly recommend the book, and I highly recommend the podcast. Leave the Gun, Take the Cannoli is the name of it, and I think you would enjoy it. The podcast, my only issue is we're one to talk, I know, but it's interrupted a lot by commercials, like a lot.
Not to brag, but we've been told that we're fine ones to talk.
Anyway, highly recommend it. And in terms of what we've been watching, we haven't been watching too much this week, although we...
Too busy taking care of your sick cat?
Yeah, we've been looking after Finnegan. But we did manage to catch up yesterday on White Lotus, and we're on board The Righteous Gemstones. The Righteous Gemstones is a parody of a Bible-thumping family.
Okay.
Very, very funny. With what's his name? The guy from The Thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What streaming service?
HBO. It's on Crave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's on Crave. So there you go. I highly recommend that. What's the guy that did the baseball takeoff east of?
Oh, the guy who played Kenny Powers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Hair.
I can't remember the actor's name, but I know exactly who you mean.
He's behind.
He's
Danny
really
McBride.
funny. Yes.
I think that's him.
Yeah.
He's behind The Righteous Gemstones,
okay.
And holy shit, is it funny?
Really, eh?
Yeah, it's absurd, and it's very, very funny. And highly recommend that, too.
Maybe I should splurge and get myself a streaming service.
Yeah, you should. You should pick up one.
Which one should I get?
Well, what was the one you said you were... I recommended something, and you said, I'll get it and then cancel it. I forget what that was.
Well, I got Prime so I could watch SAS Rogue Heroes,
Right.
and as soon as I was done watching that, I canceled it. What I like about that particular service, I don't know if they're all the same, is you can subscribe, watch what you want, and then cancel.
Yes. Well, Jess does that with one of our...
Without a penalty.
Yeah. Jess does that with one of our services. Sometimes she'll switch the channels we have. Mm-hmm. She'll just pick up her phone and say, well, I'll just cancel this channel and get that channel, and we'll watch that for 2 weeks, and then I'll put the old channel back.
That sounds pretty complicated.
Well, yeah.
You're married to a younger woman.
Yeah.
I'd have to get one of my kids to come over and figure it out for me.
Anyway, that's all I got for your recommendation this wise.
Recommendation this wise.
This wise. Really having trouble
Dyslexia
today.
disease is a terrible.
I hope I'm not having a stroke or anything.
I think
'cause
you're all right.
Jesus Christ. And that was a nice feature of today's podcast. Paul, we'll be right back. Yeah, well, it's probably because I went to the plateau last week.
Yeah, you
My
think
brain's
so?
all scrambled. Yeah, probably.
Fried you?
Yeah, I think so. That'll be it then, will it?
I think so.
I think so.
Done for another week.
There you go. There's the Standing By podcast for this week. Our big thanks to the Pantelis Comedy Network. We call them our podfathers, Mike Ward and Pantelis. And thank you, Matthew. Appreciate that. Matthew even talked this week
Yeah.
on the podcast. Very, very exciting. Our thanks to our executive producer, my lovely wife, Jessica Dion. And thanks to you for downloading the podcast and following us along on our various social media sites. And don't forget the website, terryandtedpodcast.com. Find clips and episodes there that you would like to download. And a big thank you to the UPS Store Canada, Sugar Sammy, the folks at Acute, the folks at Merson, and Robert Richer Jewelers, proud sponsors of the Standing By podcast. We'll see you next week.
Standing By, the Terry and Ted podcast, has been brought to you by the UPS Store Canada, delivering full-service solutions for your small business.